Hey, thanks for tuning in to this week's Recap with Rick. I'm Representative Rick Larsen from Washington State's 2nd Congressional District. It's been a productive week this week as the House of Representatives passed the final version of the FAA Authorization Act of 2024. Very strong bipartisan vote with only 26 members of the House voting against it. And with the Senate, in the Senate, there were only 4 people who voted against it. So a very strong bipartisan bill that invests in the long-term health of the aviation sector here in the United States. The bill ensures a cleaner, greener, safer, and much more accessible aviation transportation system into the future. It maintains the U.S. leadership in aviation safety and innovation. It strengthens and diversifies the aviation workforce. It improves consumer protections and accessibility and makes historic investments in aviation sustainability and resiliency of airports. I want to thank Chair Sam Graves of Missouri, who's been a great partner to make this happen. I want to thank him for his leadership and his partnership to get this bill across the finish line. I also want to thank our own Senator Cantwell for her work as well, leading this work in the Senate to get that bill through the Senate and back over to the House. I look forward to discussing wins in the FAA bill with aviation leaders and stakeholders when I'm home in the coming weeks. The House also passed a very strong bipartisan bill to reauthorize the Coast Guard, U.S. Coast Guard for the next 2 years. It's a strong bill that ensures the Coast Guard has the resources it needs to take care of its coasties, their families, carry out their missions, its missions that it has throughout the world, and safeguard our nation. The bill also improves the lives of service members by authorizing investments in facilities and tackling the service's shoreside infrastructure backlog. It also fights sexual violence in the Coast Guard by holding the Coast Guard accountable for its sexual assault and sexual harassment mitigation and prevention efforts. This week also marked Infrastructure Week as the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law turned 2.5 years old. It might sound young to many, but it's actually at middle age right now because we're already starting to work to look at what we need to do to reauthorize the programs in the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law by the end of 2026. But so far, the law has delivered $8.8 billion for Washington State with more than 800 specific projects identified for funding. You may have seen the first Infrastructure Week video that was put up by Mayor Sid Roberts of Stanwood. And I want to thank Sid for talking about infrastructure, how important it is to the city of Stanwood, and the kind of work that we need to continue to do. Please keep an eye out on my social media pages for more Infrastructure Week videos as we put them up over the next couple of weeks. Now I'm flying back to Washington State tonight, and I'll have events in the district, and I plan to visit with firefighters who work at Boeing and to show my support for the women of local I-66 who are seeking a fair contract for their workers. It's encouraging to see bargaining discussions will resume on Monday, but there's a long way to go, and we need to continue to support the working men and women who are the firefighters at Boeing. Well, that's this week's recap with Rick, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.